Hey Mark, how you doing?
Hey, I don't see how I can turn my video on.
Um, Let me see. Let's just start video.
Start my video. You had to
There.
tell me how I can turn my video on.
Hold on. Um, Sorry, that was me. I had YouTube on in the background. Okay, you're good.
I'm good.
Was it okay to get in? Mark had a little
Yeah.
Mark Reddington asked him a lot of questions.
No, if you've never downloaded Zoom, it takes a couple minutes to download it, but
Oh.
almost everybody's doing it.
It was like it was asking him to register as an attendee instead of a panelist, but looks like he got in anyways. Robert got in, so. But it's just you so far.
It says we got Robert on there too.
Yeah, you, Robert. There we go. I have a lot of light in here. Let me see if I can get some.
So you're in your office or you're in a council chamber?
No, I'm in my office. Oh, there's Lisa.
Oh, I've lost track of the Zooming I've done today.
Oh, a lot today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think it's my fourth. Like, how did we ever live without it? How is everybody?
I know we're getting used to this new world.
Yep. I see. Are you still in town, Mark? Or are you?
I am now, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's kind of cool that you can be anywhere today. And in our company, we've got 10,000 people and 9,999 are all working from home. So.
And you think that'll continue?
I think it's going to be a choice even after a vaccine a year from now. They've done in polling, and I think our company is similar to others. Only about 20% want to go into an office environment. And the nature of our business is really collaborative. And in the old days of engineering, you'd walk around a drafting table, which don't exist anymore. And it would be a collaborative effort as an engineer to work on a project. And now we've just learned to do it all on a computer. But we use Microsoft Teams to collaborate. And it really, you do need FaceTime to understand people and their nuances and their body language. And most of the people we work with face to face, but always on new people, it's a little different with new people.
Yeah. Well, I know somebody that's a budget analyst in another city, and they're working like 3 days from home. And he said it's just not working.
Really?
It's hard to do a budget from home. You know what I mean? Like a city budget.
Yeah.
And so he's looking forward to like everybody going back.
Yeah, we're actually thinking about giving up our office because our staff is working so well from home. And, because we travel widely and I have contractors all over the state, we're thinking maybe we don't need an office.
Yeah, we've got an office with 100 people downtown on Church Street, and it was a 3-year lease. And I know that they're looking for ways to get out of the lease.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of commercial real estate that's going to be on the market soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I really like the collaboration of face-to-face. And we have a position open that we haven't filled because of this. I mean, because I really feel like it's the kind of position I need to work with the person in person.
Well, I just got your MCOR email just popped up, Lisa.
Yep. we're not a fan.
Well, even the other split oak issue on the ballot, I'd be curious to see what kind of vote we get on that.
I'm hoping it'll be in Split Oak's favor. But yeah, you're right. I think in general, when there's a conservation issue on the ballot, people are very
It's been strong. Yeah, that Florida Forever, remember, got 60-some%. And our legislature, in their infinite wisdom, tried to find ways to not fund it.
Yep, they're still at it. But Yeah, conservation measures are popular. Go figure.
So Sharon, you got an acceptance from the other folks? Because we still need
Yeah.
one more person.
Yeah, we need one more. So it's what, 6:02? We can give it a few minutes, maybe struggling to get in. I gave everyone my cell phone number just in case. So. I see Karen's coming in. There she is.
Okay, cool.
I got 3.
Lime City.
Mark, you want to
Karen
give
is
it a
on.
few minutes?
Karen's on mute.
No, I'm not.
Well, let's since we got a quorum, let's get it started, and maybe some of the other two will join. And this is kind of weird, but let's do our Pledge of Allegiance if I can. I don't know which way to point myself towards City Hall here, Sharon, but I'll start it off. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America,
United States of America,
To the
and
Republic.
to the
Which-
republic,
Which
which
is
stands
and
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty.
with
liberty,
and
and justice for all. That was weird.
It's the feedback. It's the delay and yeah, I know. That's why we
So,
kind of stopped doing it when we were doing Zoom. Robert just played a video.
Oh, yeah.
so I did look at your agenda, and we do have a public period, and I don't see Dale showing up here unless he's in your office.
He was trying to register as an attendee. He said he was trying, but I don't see him. So maybe he's watching it on YouTube. He was the only one I know that was, I didn't get any other registrations for attendees. We had the link out
Oh, I see
there.
Courtney popped in. Courtney, you just missed our Pledge of Allegiance, so you didn't miss it.
Oh, that's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I was having some technical difficulties.
So it's been since June. I saw the minutes for June, so it's been June. Time flies. And you did some nice minutes, Sharon, because I forgot what we did. So I had to remind myself what we did. You had a really long, good staff report. So I'm okay with the minutes, and I didn't sign anything yet, Sharon. I have to print it out and sign it and send it to you. But
Okay.
can I get one of our members to move the adoption of the minutes unless somebody has a comment?
I'll move to adopt.
And get someone to second that?
Can second it.
Cool. All right. Well, all in favor of moving the minutes forward, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Anyone opposed? So I'll print out a copy and then scan it back over to you.
Okay, great. Just the signature page.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have just any new business other than staff updates. The only thing sort of I wanted to mention the new business is remind everybody of the tree giveaway that is going to happen on October 24th. Any other activities with that, Sharon, or is it just trees?
It's trees. It's a drive-through event. We felt like we really couldn't get any other, I know Waste Pro wanted to come and do some recycling stuff, but we really want to keep people in their cars, and so I think it was important for us to get some trees out there, since
I
that was.
think it's a good excuse to get people, at least just to come to the park, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go there. I want to try to get one of my first come, first served cypress trees, but I did see that they're 15 gallons. So that's a pretty hefty.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I know Robert got a email earlier, and Duke Energy is bringing some 3-gallon trees, which are pretty small, but we don't know the species. So
The babies.
doubt they're cypress. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, that's cool. And
Yeah.
maybe we can look forward to maybe having an Earth Day in the spring, things change.
Yeah. Well, the art festival, I don't know if you know, but the art festival is going to be happening in person. They are going to be doing the 3 days at Lake Lily. They're just socially distanced, and, so events are starting to come back, especially outdoor events.
What are the dates for that?
13, 14, 15.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, so Friday evening, the 13th, from 5 to 9, and then 10 to 9 on Saturday, and Sunday 10 to 4. And they will have Performing Arts of Maitland, and they're going to draw little circles in the grass where people can sit socially distanced. So it's kind of nice to have something come back. I know. I just hope it doesn't get overrun with people who are just dying to get out of their houses. Pretty much every art festival has been canceled. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't have any other new business unless anyone else has anything else that's new that would like to bring up before we get into staff report.
I have something to bring up. So I need help. I think that we have a real opportunity to make some good changes in Maitland with the environment. So Charter Review Commission has commenced its meetings, and I think we should be discussing how we can assist and perhaps getting something on the ballot for the citizens of Maitland to show their support, continued support, to keep and protect our natural resources in Maitland. I think it needs to be in a charter, not just the ordinances, we have some wonderful ordinances, but I think it should be in the charter, especially as we, I think, can all agree, especially with the passage of the resolution that led to the Sustainability Board, that we all agree there's a problem with the environment. We're facing dire circumstances. So I think that having something in the charter would keep that secure from any type of rollback or just obliteration should council change or something like that. So I think this board could come up with some ideas for how that would work. Now, I don't know if everyone's familiar with rights of nature. I brought it up a couple meetings ago. Sharon, I think, shared that. Does everyone know what's going on with Orange County and rights of nature? And
Why don't you rebrief us? I remember you bringing it up before, but give us an update on that.
so what I know about it, and I'm a layperson, so I'm just trying to learn as I go. We have approached the environment for the last 50 years in ways that clearly have not worked. So they came up with this idea to protect Lake Erie by giving it a right of nature. So what that means is that if you have a vested interest in that body of water, then you can legally sue anybody who is taking away the capacity of that natural ecosystem to thrive, and then they have to clean it up. It's pretty simple. Lot of pushback on it. I think it's in the courts again. So Orange County is doing their charter process. And if you've gotten your ballot, you'll see that rights of nature is on the Orange County ballot to do the same thing with Orange County lakes and water systems in Orange County. It's already preempted, meaning the state has already made sure that even if the citizens of Orange County say this is what they want to do, they want to protect the Wekiva, they want to protect the Econ, which feeds into the St. John's, which is, just imperative to the health of all. The charter amendment would be preempted. So I don't think Maitland necessarily needs to put anything like rights of nature, rights of clean water for our lakes. Mark, you would know better than me, but I think we've done a really outstanding job at turning our lakes around, prioritizing them, doing a comprehensive, I think it was in 2006, a comprehensive plan to protect our lakes. So I don't know if we want to put anything like that in the charter. What I was thinking, one of my ideas I was thinking, and I've started a slideshow that I can share with Sharon and she can share with you later, is that a resolution that started this committee is kind of temporary. We are a sustainability ad hoc advisory committee. This is all temporary. The Planning and Zoning Commission is instilled in our charter. Why isn't sustainability in there? So I would maybe have us think about, should we ask the sustainability board be something that is now part of our city in the charter? So anyway, that's just, I would love to hear your feedback on that. Or, we have a climate change resolution. How do we make that more permanent?
I think it's a great idea. Sharon, what is the timetable on the charter review? What's that process and when is it over?
So we have sort of slowed it down. Originally, we were trying to get to the March ballot, but I think that's unlikely, to get through all that and get it to the elections office. So right now, we've done the first 4 articles, I think, of the charter, and we're working through it. So we've got meetings in November and December. I'm assuming it's going to go to the spring because, we've just started and there's a lot of, when I say we've gone through the first 3 articles, that's just with questions. So now we got to go back and get answers. And this was one of the questions. And then we haven't even gotten to, some of the other members have, whether it's sustainability. John Lowndes is on the Charter Review Commission, and he drafted this resolution. So I'm sure he'll be speaking about stuff that he wants to add in there, similar to the heritage lands. So, but I would think, at your November meeting, if you wanted to put something on here where the board actually votes November or December, that would be a good timeline. I don't think you want to go past December in getting.
No, that's a great idea. Let's put it on an agenda for November, and we got to think of a politically correct suggestion so we don't get pushback from certain folks. But I like the idea of having sustainability be more formalized and not just a temporary 2-year gig. That would be a fairly safe request, I think.
Yeah, I think Karen's got a great idea, putting it in the charter. This should be something that Maitland is all about. Now, are you suggesting that we would come up with language to suggest? I mean, how do you want us to work?
So that would make sense to me, as if you had some language to suggest. I mean, it could be as simple as, I can look at the language for P and Z and drop a similar statement. So
oh yeah, that's an easy one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then then submit it to the Charter Review Committee. They may expand on it, change it. They may already be talking about something and blend it in. So if, at least for discussion, I could start with what it says, why we have a P and Z. Obviously, we'd have a sustainability or climate change board or whatever we're going to call, whatever you want to call it, that makes sense, because once it's in the charter, it's not coming out. Very difficult to take anything out of the charter. And so I think it needs to have some bullets underneath as to what the direction would be given to that permanent board, much like P and Z knows what their direction is. Or it says you will have this board, and you will, the role will be adopted by ordinance. I think if you're looking for ultimate protection, you do it like heritage properties and you put it in the charter with the exact language that you want this board to do. Now, the problem with that is, if anything that you put in there becomes obsolete, it is stuck in your charter. You know what I mean? Like I think you want to keep it. I know you don't want to be vague, because then that can be misinterpreted, but we could start at least looking at what does P and Z say, what does it say about P and Z and what the requirements are to have it, and then draft something similar for sustainability.
Are there any other boards that are cited other than P and Z?
No, it basically says council has the ability to create other boards and committees. So that's how, like, the ad hoc sustainability is created, but as they create them, they can also let them sunset.
So P&Z actually says, it's for the purpose of promoting health, safety, general welfare of community with the regulation and restriction of the height, number of stories, size of buildings, et cetera, et cetera. And it's got about a page in here. And then it goes into the appointment of its commission. So it looks like a paragraph. I'm sure we could come up with something like that. The heritage lands, the classification of the lands, is even just smaller, like one paragraph.
Right. There's a resolution that goes along with the heritage lands, but it's succinct enough to say you will not sell city property that's classified in these categories unless you go to the residents. And it fulfilled its purpose. You know, the city will not be selling off land to developers.
It's been used quite often.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. Just the language is going to be by committee. I mean, the language is going to have to be carefully crafted. Probably even to see if John Lowndes wants to participate in the crafting of the language with us.
The only problem is John and Karen are on a same committee. They can't really
Do anything.
Yeah, they can't be
I
talking
think
about
we
stuff
have.
that come before.
Don't we have a mission statement in the original documents? We've got some already documentation, some language I think we could already use either in the resolution. Yeah.
That's what I can put something together and then you guys can, you know, look at it between now and November and come up with some changes. And I think whatever you send to charter review, John and the commission, you know, Bill Randolph's on there, you know, they'll go further with it.
The resolution really has everything in it. I mean, it says safeguard the public health, safety, welfare with reasonable steps to mitigate climate change, increase the city's resilience to its effects. And that's some of the language in the climate change resolution. So I think it's kind of written for us.
Well, we use that same language. It's hard for them not to go along with it. They approved it. Yeah. That, I think it's a great idea. Sharon, can you take a first cut trial balloon on the language?
Yeah, I think I can do it fairly quickly and get it out to you guys, you know, fairly soon. So, you know, at least you have a chance to look at it, say, more than a week before the meeting, so.
No, this is cool. It's a great idea. Anything else?
Well, on it, I want to make sure also that we don't, that we make sure that people understand this isn't going to cost anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is really about being committed to make sure that budgetary money is not going to increase any problems with the environment. And also education is so important. And the reason I'm saying this is because right now for our lakes, I think we have a special tax to pay for that, Mark, to pay for
we do stormwater fees. Yeah.
So I don't want people to think that if we do this, we somehow are going to try and tax them. It's really, that came up when we were doing the climate change resolution. Some of the concerns that were brought up is, oh, this is going to cost money, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that, I don't know how to get that across, or we need to make sure people know this doesn't cost you money. This is
Well, good environmental policy shouldn't be a tax. It shouldn't be a cost to it. So I think I remember the mayor brought up some issues he was concerned about that would be recommendations. What if we recommended we go complete solar in the city and where it may not be feasible? That was the kind of trial negative balloon that was being thrown out, that we're going to come up with recommendations that were going to be unreasonably costly. But yeah, I think that you kind of thrown a landmine out there that we need to be careful about.
Yeah.
Is there, I guess this wouldn't really be on the charter, but I'm thinking, you know how when there's an election and you have a little note that says this will increase the state budget or whatever, you know what I'm talking about, on the ballot?
Like a fiscal impact from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have anything like that for our city, or no, not really?
We haven't had that for charter review stuff, but I mean, that's something that the Charter Review Commission, if they come forward and put it in their report, would look at. So, I mean, they would look at it. It wouldn't end up on the ballot, but the Charter Review Commission will look at the fiscal impact, if there is one, of any of the stuff they put on there. So, so I think they could communicate that to the council through their report.
Okay, I didn't know if it was something that would be easy for the voter to see if they're reading the ballot when they're right there, that it's easily communicated.
Yeah. We can look at it.
What
There's
is-
limited to the language. You're limited to the number of words you can use. And
Right.
When is the next meeting on that committee, the charter committee?
let me see.
It's in November. Is it going to be?
I think
Before-
it's before you guys. I think, well, I don't know, maybe not, because we had trouble getting everybody. Let's see, what's the next one? October.
While she's looking, another thing we need to be
November
careful-
16th.
Yeah, November 16th, sorry.
Was that Mark?
So,
His voice just came.
this is Robert.
Oh, it's Robert. Okay. So another thing I think when we write it is to be clear that we're not asking to create a city sustainability officer, because a lot of, like, OCPS has a sustainability officer. So that's a salary, that's a budget. So that's another way to make sure people understand that this would be an advisory board like planning and zoning, so that we don't have a misconception out there about that either. I'm saying this because if we get this where we want it to be, then it becomes needing to explain it to voters.
Yeah.
So, a question though, is this charter amendment only about the sustainability committee and not about the sustainability of the city as a whole? I'm confused as to what we're trying to accomplish.
I don't know. That's kind of why I came to you guys. I'm afraid to put anything in there like that might lead to a sustainability office, and now you're looking at a budgetary concern and people seeing that their tax money might be going to this and they might not want that, and then you don't get the opportunity to establish and put a sustainability committee in place. So
Yeah, I think that you
oh,
might
what
go
do you
too.
think?
Yeah, I think it's safer to get the sustainability committee in the charter as going forward, and you can work on resolutions later through city council on particular activities. If you want to get a sustainability officer, that may be something the city council wants to do later as a position, but that could be done outside of the charter.
So the charter could be, recognizing Maitland wants to be a sustainable place and good environment for all its citizens. And then to that end, establish the committee as more than an ad hoc committee, but a standing committee. And then that gives the city the ability to add a position or do whatever it wants, correct?
I think that's how
it's
it
not
works.
limited.
Would that how
Okay.
it work, Sharon?
Yes. Yeah, so, I mean,
Yeah,
it's in there saying, this is the intent and this is the board you create, then it's up to that board to make recommendations to the council, which they can choose to fund or not fund. I mean, that's ultimately, you can't obligate the council to vote to fund anything. It's, it's gonna depend on the council. So all you can do is say what they're empowered to do. And I mean,
I
think we
think that
can-
makes us a voice. I think it makes sure that the environment always has a voice in Maitland, if we can
Mhm.
get this into the charter, and that there will be a group of citizens always there with the right to have whatever they want to call it, sustainability board, sustainability commission, so that they have a voice to speak about anything having to do with the environment in our city.
yeah, no
Karen-
argument there.
That's
That's a
great.
great idea.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for direction as to what to include. And it seems less is more. I mean, the
Yeah.
less,
My feeling. Yeah.
okay.
Karen, what did you say was the amendment that was preempted by the state in Orange County? Just so we know what kind of language maybe to avoid.
I can look it up, but it's a right to clean water amendment.
It's actually a rights to nature. It's on the ballot. And it specifically names the Wekiva River. I don't know if it names the St. John's. I don't think the St. John's is Orange
I
County.
think it names
But it- Yeah, the Econ and Wekiva, Little Wekiva, I think it was. Yeah, maybe we could, there are other cities that have, are, have sustainability movements going. Do they have charter amendments like this one that established committees? Or have established committees?
Every charter is different. They're like snowflakes. So I can try to research some of them. The charter amendment on Split Oak, there's an example of one trying to protect nature.
Yeah.
The reason that after talking to the city attorney, the reason that is not preempted is because you're not giving rights to an inanimate object, or or a
Right.
nature. You're actually just saying this will not happen. You know what I mean? He thinks that'll fly, and that's not preempted. I can send you the languages that specifically preempted cities from doing this. And interestingly, it's buried in a very huge bill that's called the Environmental Protection Act. And it was unanimously passed by the House and the Senate. But it's a bill that contains so many protections, and probably just this one clause that seemed, not so bad to pass, because it's like on page 180 of 111. Like, you have to read pretty deep. But it's contained with all these great environmental protections. It's kind of strange, but I can send it to you. I sent it to the Charter Review Committee. I don't think what Karen's talking about would run afoul of that at all. It's very specific preemption that was pretty much directed at whatever Orange County was putting on the ballot.
Sure. And that's why I think, Karen, that's why I think your idea is very smart. It avoids anything like that. And I think good on you.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be a real adverse anti-environment person to even poke fun at it. So I think it's a great idea.
So back to rights of nature, what I do know about it, Lisa, is it actually is trying to give rights to ecosystems, bodies of water, vested interest. You have to have a vested interest in them to do anything for them. We've given these rights, there's precedent for it because it's given rights to like corporations.
Right, I read the book. I understand the whole movement.
So I think what we are in right now is such a political minefield that's why I think, as much as I think after 50 years of watching the environment just get worse, I think it's a great movement, an international movement. But I think this is the better way to go.
Yeah.
That one little step.
All right, so Joanne, Sharon, if you just come up with some draft language, maybe copycat the P&Z and let's put it on there. And are we going to meet before the charter? Okay.
Yes. So you will be meeting before them. You have a meeting, I think, about the week before.
Okay, cool.
But again, they're meeting again in December. So, if you can't get through it, it's not.
Is that a virtual thing or is that a real face-to-face?
Meeting in the council chambers. As of November 1st, the governor has given fair warning to everybody that we have to start meeting in person. You have to have 3 people physically present for a quorum. So if we don't have 3 people in the council chambers, we don't have a meeting. So he's pretty much, it was supposed to expire in October, and he gave like a 30-day reprieve with the words like, be prepared for November 1st. We're coming back to meeting in person. So he will not be extending it. Now, there's always the option somebody could phone in. We've got a phone down there if somebody doesn't want to come in, but council.
What about committees? What about committees?
P&Z is going to have to meet in person, or else they don't have no committee that doesn't have 3 people in that council chambers physically present can have a quorum.
Okay, so then we have to be in there physically in next month.
We have Karen's been in there. We have plexiglass up, so you get to sit in a little box
Okay.
surrounded by plexiglass. But it's a little strange, but it works, you know, for now.
All right, does anyone need
One more
anything
thing.
new?
One more thing on this, if everyone could think about play devil's advocate with this for me, because what I will need to do is be ready for any pushback to establish this in the charter. So if you could do that at the next meeting, help me prepare for that, that'd be wonderful. I mean, already I would say planning and zoning is in there, so but I suspect the pushback, I'm not gonna go into it. Just, you can play devil's advocate with this and let me know what you come up with so that I'm ready.
Well, I think Sharon's deals enough with the mayor. She knows exactly what the mayor might say, so.
Well, I think it has to go out to the residents of Maitland. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of people's different opinions on, you know, on this, you know, putting this in the charter. And there's some people, I'm one of those anti-constitutional amendment people. I'm like, why does it need to be amended? So I'm usually like a no, 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 no. So somehow it has to be, I think, succinct enough, the wording in itself to say what it's trying to do, because you don't get to give a lot of information to explain what they're voting on. You know, some people, the ballot just shows up and they didn't go to the sample ballot, or they didn't go to the League of Women Voters. So they don't understand it. And they might see climate change and go, no, right? I don't know. Or see climate change and go, yes. So we shall see.
We tried to avoid the word climate change. It seems to have
That's what I was gonna say. Let's not put that on there.
Yeah, but again, it'll be
sounds good.
after the election. And so hopefully cooler heads will prevail, you know?
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't get tied up in that national politics. It's what the residents here want. It's not a national, you know, although it's a national issue, we're talking about addressing it here in Maitland.
All right, so we're going to have some language, and then we're going to have to come up with some questions that we need to help have answers for if we're hit by questions by the committee.
It might be helpful too, whenever I send it out, is that if we're going to send it to the Charter Review Commission as a board recommendation, is there should be some like preamble as to, you know, why you're making the recommendation, like put that, you know, so that they understand where it's coming from. You know, we're not asking to be paid committee, you know, or, you know, we're not asking to have budget control, you know, we're asking to, I don't know, if it's institutionalize it or, you know, make a statement. I mean, I think John's resolution made a statement, and that's what he was trying to do. So I just think about what that preamble might be that you want to put on that language so that they understand. And someone from, you know, Karen could probably present it at the Charter Review Committee, or, sorry, I have a gnat in my office, or you could, Mark, you could come and present it, you know, however.
No, I think having us, Karen, it's a great idea. I think you should be leading it, but we need to give enough thought on that preamble, maybe even see what the initial emails were when John was sending this out to set our committee up and see the language he was using.
He put a memo on top of it, the resolution.
Yeah.
So.
Great stuff. So let's move into staff reports, unless somebody else has anything urgent that we need to talk about new business.
Not urgent, but I wanted to throw in, maybe probably not this meeting, but maybe next meeting. I think we should pull out those bullet points from the resolution, because we've been doing this for a year now. We have a year left. And I think with everything with the pandemic, we just kind of should reevaluate, see where we're at on all the status markers, and just kind of get an idea of our new baseline right now.
Good. Maybe we'll put that on the agenda too, is to review our progress, if we could say we've had any progress, and see what our action item should be.
Right.
Yeah, I actually, I was going to bring it up under staff updates, but I sort of owe the council a 1-year update in November. I think we said we'd come back in a year. So that was my intention, is to put together, you know, sort of what the action plan said, and I'm going to go over some of it tonight. I didn't do every single thing. And just, we said we'd give them sort of a report back, at least on an annual basis. And I think they'll understand due to COVID, it's probably only been 6 real months and not a year, but at least put together a little report. So I'll add that to your agenda and try to, I've got what Tom put together. And
Yes.
but I would like to make it more of a scorecard. I've seen some other cities that have done it, you know what I mean? Like a color coded scorecard, and something that's more of a one, you know, it's not
Like a
20
snapshot.
pages. Yeah, exactly. A snapshot.
And we still never got anything going with UCF, Sharon.
Well, I
Yeah.
actually had Duke coming to this meeting online, and he couldn't make it. So he's scheduled for the next meeting. So I will try
Okay.
UCF then for the December meeting, but he has committed.
Let's try to get those. Those are the 2 biggies we wanted to have. And it would have been nice if we could get those done through this calendar year, so that we can say in this calendar year, we had all these presentations and discussions.
Well, a lot of the bullet points relate to renewable energy, like one whole section, and it all kind of stems from Duke, since we don't run our own electric. So I was really trying to get, he's a wealth of information, and really try to get him in and tell us everything that Duke is doing that we might be able to participate in.
Okay. Looks like we're going to be a little bit busy in November and December.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I think we lost a lot of the spring and summer on most of our boards and committees, frankly, you know. P&Z is pretty much the only one that's been working consistently through the whole online, you know, because they've got that land development code. So they've been having workshops continuously, and then charter review, we're going to meet monthly and try to get that knocked out. So.
All right, staff report time.
Okay, I was just going to share my screen. Let me see. Why is it not white? Oh, man. There we go. Because I get too many things. Here we go. Okay, do you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I just went down a few of the action items just since the last time we met in June. So the land development code for downtown was adopted in July, and that included those sustainability requirements. And the full land development code, so outside of the downtown, is currently being reviewed by P&Z with the expected presentation to council, I believe, in March, sometime in the spring, hopefully March. I know they're working on it now. We did receive a building audit from Duke Energy, but found it to be lacking in actionable information. It was really not valuable. So we are now meeting quarterly with Duke, and we will most likely need to hire an outside energy auditing company. I think what they provided was not what we anticipated from an audit, you know, because we want all systems to be included, lighting, you know, HVAC, everything. And it just wasn't, it isn't worth showing to the committee. Let's put it that way. And then PACE, I don't know if you've been following this. They did present to you, and I have been in touch with them. But they've been in the news a little bit lately. Several counties have opted out because of issues with contractors, residents coming to them saying they didn't know it was going to be a lien on their property, etc. So I talked to Winter Park, who's had this for several years. I think we talked about this at our last meeting, is calling Winter Park. And what Chris told me is, I think they've had it for about 5 years, and they've only had about half a dozen people participate. So it's not been, they don't really push it out too much, but it's not really been, it hasn't been taking off. They have had no problems. But when he and I talked about, we talked about maybe the city moves forward with just commercial at first. As you know, commercial folks, they can do their due diligence, they can make a financial decision, worried about a homeowner that might be taken advantage of that doesn't understand all the nuances of this. And he does have a meeting with Y-Green, who is the big paste provider that's been listed in these news reports, to see what protections they're going to put in place. You know, we know that they're supposed to call the resident, explain it to the resident, but it seems like several of the counties feel like there aren't enough protections in place, even with all of those. Again, that's, you know, somebody goes to sell their house and they find out that it has to be paid off and they don't have the money, you know. So they may have signed something that had all that information, but, you know, again, that doesn't mean that they understood it at the time. So I don't know how the committee feels about maybe just moving forward with commercial, see how it goes. It's an option for some of those businesses on the west side that have older buildings. I mean, the rates aren't great.
So, you think this is a protection thing or an education communication situation, or the companies being used for the PACE program? Or you don't-
It's the administration of the program is what the investigation that was for, it's actually this is not the first time they've had problems with it. And so they found a lot of like internal controls lacking. So, you know, the program says it's doing this, but when they're audited, are all these things in the file? And so I feel better with commercial, only because, you know, do your due diligence. You're a commercial property owner, you know what I mean? You have options. I really don't, you know, and commercial property owners aren't going to come to us versus a resident who just doesn't understand the whole program. Again, they've had Winter Park has had no issues, but they've only had 12 people participate. These other counties have had much more robust programs with a lot of people participating. So the percentage of complaints are not a lot, but I mean, they got escalated to the news and then ultimately their county board of commissioners. So I sort of hang on to it and see what happens with Winter Park. He wasn't talking about opting out. He's just concerned, you know, that they're addressing whatever these issues are that are popping up. So nobody's banging down the door on PACE. It's another financing mechanism for people who want solar, you know, want to upgrade their building HVAC and, you know, increase their energy efficiency.
So, should the city maybe focus on where the city can adapt to solar or create a better energy efficiency while this is going on?
Right, so that would be, yeah, that would be the building, that's the audit we need to have. And really, we thought we were going to get something from Duke that would be actionable, you know, lighting systems, HVAC system, whatever needed to be upgraded, and then put those in the budget, you know, put those, when would these things happen? And what we got was not actionable. So there are companies that will do the audit. And so we need to hire an outside company and get that done. Because until we have a building audit, we don't have anyone internal. We do know which air conditioning systems need to be replaced, but you know, to have what we need is a citywide plan for every facility.
What about, I don't know a lot about this yet, but does power purchase agreements enter into the city being able to, once you have your energy audit, look to see if there's a possible solution to solar or not solution, but opportunity for solar? Is that possible?
Yeah, one of the things, and again, the renewables manager from Duke talked about is having us get in touch with UCF and seeing if we can get some of their assistance as well. So
yeah, there is a lady at UCF who does power purchase agreements or knows all about them. You want me to send you that name?
yes, that'd be great.
And then we know that that's probably also good because I believe that some of the utilities companies are circling back around to attack net metering again. Net metering again. So I would hate to understand that better. To do a PACE program for our residents and then that circles back around, that could be a problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any questions we have for Duke, start thinking of him for the next, he's very knowledgeable and I mean, this is his program. He's the one in charge of making sure they meet their renewable goals and was pretty well versed in the community solar and some of the other programs that they have. So we can ask him those questions. And so that action 1.9 and 110, we did, staff met with the renewables manager pre-COVID, and he is scheduled to be the guest speaker at the November meeting. So action 2.1, the land development code will include EV charging station requirements for parking lots. On action 2.2, we did buy our first 2 hybrid police vehicles. And so we will be seeing what the break-even point is, the cost savings, so we see if they're, if they work for the police. If they work for the police, the price was not significantly different. I think it would break even fairly quickly. So they're willing to start headed that way. And on every purchase of vehicles, we have a vehicle replacement schedule. We have to write a justification for why we're not going electric, why we're not choosing a hybrid, and it's a memo that goes to council. Let's see, on the 3.1, it was the urban forestry. We have reclassified the landscape specialist position, which is vacant, and advertise it as an arborist. So we will begin that program along with, we said the tree giveaway coming up, and we're also replanting in the medians. So we'll get some numbers from that, how many trees we give away, what size the trees were, and then how many trees we're planting in the right of way reforestation. And once we have the arborist on board, we can, start moving a more robust program forward of getting trees out there into the community, including on our own properties.
Karen, are you still looking at a tree giveaway program in the fall, or has that been?
Yeah, no, October 24th at the Maitland Community Park. It's going to be a drive-by event or a drive-through event. So first come, first served. So we couldn't really do Earth Day, so that's why we made it a drive-through.
What time does it start?
Robert, what time does it start?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Yeah, but get there early if you want a cypress tree, Mark.
No, I know.
Okay. Also, we do have a project pilot and a landscape plan for the community park to remove the invasives and reforest it and have an educational piece. We're trying to get the cost estimates developed. It's, the tree removal is going to be costly, but we do have at least a plan. On 3.7, we just talked about Earth Days, now just going to be a drive-through tree giveaway at Community Park. We did adopt the bike ped master plan. We finished Domrick Choctaw sidewalks and the Sandspur Trail, and we've incorporated the plan into the 5-year CIP. So in each year, there are sidewalks scheduled to be done. I can tell you, we do have some revenue shortfalls, and so a lot of those are on hold until we see how the revenues rebound or not from COVID. But we, lost a lot of sales tax funding. We don't know how vacant commercial offices will impact next year's tax revenue if people don't go back to their offices and cancel their leases over on the west side. Could be a problem. So we're sort of on a holding pattern with projects that haven't already started, but we have not taken them out of the budget. They're sitting over there on holds to be brought back in if revenues come back.
So can I suggest that Robert make that appealing or do his magic and communicate that? Because I've been contacted by a couple of neighbors saying that sidewalk projects have been eliminated. And I responded and I told them, I talked to Mark Reddington, and he told me, no, they're not eliminated. They're going to happen. And then I had to explain to the neighbors, COVID. So just to make you aware that that's out there on social media.
Yeah, I did see that. And then I did respond to some direct emails of misinformation that I got from someone that was coming to the meetings and then misspeaking what was happening at the meeting to be the official voice. And I don't know how many times I said it in a council meeting. It's like, these are projects are on hold. And in fact, if you look at our CIP, they're in the CIP. I just put a little asterisk and said, due to COVID-19, they're on hold, but they have not, Mohican sidewalks has not been eliminated. If we can find funding, either leftover from this year, because we're not, we've closed the year, but we need to do all the accounting for, if we have extra money that wasn't spent because positions weren't filled, we can move the sidewalks forward. And so that's what we've tried to communicate. And I can work with Robert as to how you could get that out there. I don't know how you word that in a, we can
Actually,
talk.
that information came from one of the residents that we were trying to get easement from, and that's how I explained it to her.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so we're still trying to get the easements for the sidewalks, so it's not been abandoned, not at all. And I don't know how it keeps getting miscommunicated, but I'll work on that. And then action 4.4, 4.9, the working group has not met since COVID-19. We were supposed to meet in April, and don't think it's a good idea to have a bunch of senior management people, meeting in person. And then I think everyone's been so busy with their own cities, it hasn't died. We still have some ideas. It's, I think until after the election, a lot of cities in Seminole County have they have their elections in November versus we have ours in March. So this isn't a necessarily busy election time for us. It is for them. So I think once that settles, we'll probably start meeting again, hopefully in January. So we haven't done a lot of micro mobility, but to be honest, I don't think people are taking Sunrail. I don't know what we do about Sunrail, and I don't know.
Only two cars running on the track, so
Yeah. It's
like
going to be a big problem. Yes, it's going to be a big costly problem. So, but we do want to get it back on track. I've talked to, Altamont city manager. And so he's got still some ideas that he's moving forward. So I'll give you an update when we meet again. It was kind of, the downtown LDC was adopted. The balance is under review. We had a ULI study planned for the west side and they canceled that, Urban Lands Institute. And since COVID, they have not restarted their program, which was to look at our west side and determine what we need to do to get those buildings to be redeveloped. They're 1980s buildings. And they were willing
COVID's
to
going to turn everything upside down. Commercial office space.
They were scheduled to come in, and then just like maybe a week before they were coming, everything sort of shut down. So they've not done any since then, but I'm sure they'll get that back on track, because the west side, this will be even, the interesting part is maybe it's better we waited until after COVID, because this will be a whole nother problem. That pre-COVID, we wouldn't even been like, what if nobody comes back to the office? You'd be like, well, what do you mean? You'll always have Maitland Center. Everyone will always need to go to office. We do have our initial GIS implementation scheduled for 2021. I believe it should be going on one of the next council agendas to start the various layers for the utilities, which would be stormwater, wastewater, water. It's a multi-year project, but those layers will be being built working with a consultant.
Is that stuff ever going to be available for the public to see on a website?
The folks that we're working with do have a public facing piece. I mean, that's the intent. For community development, that's the intent.
Yeah.
The initial layers are really for public works. You know what I mean? Like, where are the
pipes
valves that have been exercised? Yeah, where are the fire hydrants for the fire department? But yes, we would want to have those layers eventually public facing. And that's more from the community development side, because they get more requests for maps and information like that than public works does. So, but yes, it does have a community facing piece. After we canceled the events in the spring, they had their first basin cleanup last weekend, and 28 volunteers showed up to clean Lake Sebelia. So that was great. It's the first one we've had since COVID. A number of them were canceled. In terms of the ESG investment options, we're looking at those in the next quarterly general employees pension meeting. And then 8.2, the Department of Labor have clarified their rules that ESG investments cannot have a separate policy. So they must meet the same criteria of any of your investments, and that we found some that do. So you cannot weight any of the social value of an ESG to offset any of your investment policy. And so we have, that's what we're going with, but that we'll still be able to put some of those options in there. They've got to meet all the same criteria as any other investment option, and no weighting can be put towards their social value or environmental value. So Hill Recreation Center may be an option for the community garden. That's the next park after Fort Maitland. So
You struck a nerve with me. You know, that's my passion.
That's your passion. We need to get Independence Square is finalizing. Hill Rec is next, and then Fort Maitland is next, and then there's sort of a toss up between Hill Rec and Lake Sibylla Beach as to which one should be next after that. But I know you've brought.
Let me ask you on Hill Rec. You guys some pretty big dumpsters set there. Is that for debris, for storm debris?
I don't think it's storm debris. It could be the street sweeper. He has to dump out his sweeper. That may be what's there. I can find out.
It's been there for like 6 months. It's too large. I forget how many yards they are, but two really large dumpsters.
I think they may be his, because I'll tell you why. We're using the parking lot across the street where he used to go to dump the leaves for a laydown yard for Independence Square. And so I think he had to move his dumpsters temporarily out of there, because it's now a construction site until the park is done, and then he can move them back over here. And I think Hill Rec, because he's doing the east side of town, he doesn't want to have to drive all the way over back to Public Works. So temporarily, I believe he put them there. I can confirm. On action 9.4, we did remove organics from the contract with Waste Pro. And so if commercial composting becomes available, or residential, somebody comes up with a commercial program, we can participate in it. We don't have to worry about Waste Pro having any exclusive. Right now, we don't know of anybody that's willing to come, but you never know. And then we did cancel the composting class due to COVID, and we haven't yet rescheduled it, because that is an indoor class, and haven't really been doing any indoor stuff, but we'll figure that out. The drinking fountains, Public Works completed the inventory, and they provided a recommendation to retrofit the drinking fountains at all the parks. And any new parks going forward will include the bottle refill station as a park is constructed. And then action 10.2, I put adopted, but I don't what it was. Let's see. And then two other things we did, I think I may have sent you the email. We did get our Soul Smart designation. It was silver. We're not too far from gold. The gold would require that we adopt the LDC, because a lot of the points that we would get that would take us over the top are in the land development code that isn't yet adopted. So we shot for second place. And after we adopt all the sustainability stuff citywide, we can go back and reapply for a different designation. And as well as that, we did participate in the United Solar Neighbors Solar Co-op, which just closed, and I think they had an overwhelming response. I believe they were more than full folks interested, which is great. So they'll be doing another one, I'm sure, soon, because they got great response. And it seems like, just based upon the number of building permits, we're seeing everybody's doing something to their house during this pandemic.
So are you thinking what you just given us a report, is that sort of going to be the content of the summary we give to council? How do you think of doing that?
I would really like to, I'll try to come up with something. I really would like to do a scorecard, like a balanced scorecard, and sort of put colors. I think that's what Tom had sort of started,
Like a red, green, yellow, something to show that
that, or like, these are building related. This is, city related. This is, lakes related, could be blue or something, like just some sort of coding, because they're all over the board, and some are some are going to have a bigger impact than others. You know what I mean? So, okay,
Well, we have to be able to show progress somehow. So we need to show either in color code or in some sort of scale where we are on a scale of we haven't started anything and now we're halfway through it or whatever.
Yeah. Well, we have work plans that we do that are color coded with started, designing, planning, started, behind schedule, you know, on hold. And so we could use that same color coding to show, and then over time it would change, hopefully, you know, like we always go like completed to us is yellow. So we're always like, I want to see more yellow on there. You know what I mean? Because yellow means you're done. And then, you know,
Yeah.
we don't want to show a lot of thinking about it stuff, which to us is blue. Like, you know, we're planning on doing that. And then started, you know, is green, which is like, yes, we started. So we have an internal color coding system. There's just a lot of these. Like when I was going through it today, I mean, there's a lot and a lot of verbiage. And I think I might lose the council on a long presentation.
So when do we owe them a report?
So like maybe the second meeting in November, first meeting in December. So if I can get something ready for your meeting and you tweak it and, you know, fix it, it's not like they're going to say you missed your deadline. I just feel like it's been a year and it's good to get it in front of them and say, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And so some of this stuff has budget impact. And so we tried to talk, you know, through the budget. It's like I don't want to say fortunate, but our landscape specialist left. So all of a sudden there's a position that we could reclassify into an arborist. And so that worked out. So I didn't have to do a big budget presentation because, you know, position freed up, we reclassified it and check that box, you know, we have an arborist.
So there wasn't a real additional cost for that then?
No. Now we did beef up the tree replacement budget, but that's not a huge cost. The cost is going to be when we go out and identify what trees have to come down. I mean, that's what, you know, if we were at Fort Maitland and you just look and you go, ugh, you know, these trees are the laurel oaks. They're dead. You know, they're dead or dying. You know, the real shady trees at Fort Maitland are camphors.
Right.
You know, so, but just to have an urban forestry program, and as you know, we always get people go, well, you don't have an arborist on staff. And so we did have consulting arborists, but I think to have some legitimacy, you got to have an arborist on staff because it's clear she's not working for, you know, Davy Tree. They're working for the city.
So is that position advertised?
Yes, it's advertised now. And it just was advertised in September. So I don't know what kind of response they've gotten. I would imagine with the number of people who've been laid off,
You think it'd be a lot, yeah.
Yeah, we should be getting a lot of applications because I know the theme parks have arborists. But that's all I had for today. And so
something I didn't see on there that I'm curious about is our water treatment plants. How many does Maitland operate?
off the top of my head, I don't know. I know there's.
You've got two water plants, and isn't the Altamont running those for you?
Altamont is doing the day-to-day, but we still are responsible for any retrofits or anything like that. So yeah,
Maintenance.
Yes, maintenance and capital improvements are ours. And we're adding one. We're designing one now to add one.
The most visible one, Karen, is over by the Keller Road Parks. That's visible. The other one is more hidden away closer to Lake Sibelia and Edenville.
So we have 3 water plants. We have 6 groundwater wells and about 70 miles of piping.
Are you, Karen, I'm sorry, you sent me an email. Were you referring to like an energy audit of those plants? Is that what you were?
Especially if we're designing one. We know what our big polluters are. We talk about cars, we talk about buildings, but water treatment plants are a big polluter too. It takes a lot to move water around. I know Winter Park just put some solar. I think it's only controlling about 6% of the energy needed there, but it's something. So it's something to include and start looking at, especially if you're designing one right now. And I can find out information on like zero emissions, or low emissions, or energy efficient ones that we can look at. Yeah.
So if you're talking about wastewater plants, Karen, the city doesn't have a wastewater plant that goes to the Iron Bridge facility. So there's no wastewater plants, but they have lift stations which produce odors, and very little odors generated out of the water plant other than the aeration component, which has a hydrogen sulfide issue. So I'm not sure, but an energy audit would still be worth looking at.
No, that when I say city facilities, I don't just mean buildings. I mean facilities. We can call them water facilities or wastewater facilities. So it's citywide, because the lift state, we have lots of lift station bills, power bills, you know.
And your power bills on the water are big too. So that's probably, I bet you between lift stations and your water plant, it's probably 50% of the city's power bills.
Right, and irrigation pumps, you know. So, yeah, what we got from Duke was just the fire station, you know.
Now, there's probably some low-hanging fruit there on energy efficiency. It may be worth getting one of your consultants who have some sort of electrical HVAC strength to be able to, you know, give you an idea what it would take to actually do inspections of each of those things. Duke's not going to do it for you. I mean, on your lift stations, you know, whether you're using variable frequency drive on your pumps, which are energy savers, or you know, the water plant is going to be a big power user. So that's a great idea. I think there's some opportunity for savings there.
I mean, they're sort of in the position where they want to sell us power, but they also have some pretty lofty goals to reduce power usage. So you would think they'd be somewhat motivated to, if they know those are big users and there's a way to make them more energy efficient, you know, to promote that. So I'll reach out to Winter Park. I mean, the difference is Winter Park owns the utility, so they balance those two goals like we do with water. You know, we want to conserve water, but I also sell water.
You don't want to lose revenue. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there's ways to do that. You tweak the rate schedule, more fixed costs, you know, whatever it's going to be. So.
But not just conserving the water, but using energy efficient sources to move the water around. So I know that's a kind of a new thing people are looking at. So especially at this point, we should be aware of it, just become more aware of it so that we.
Well, just as an example, I heard, I haven't seen it, that Altamont Springs is installing the floating solar photovoltaics in the stormwater pond. So they're using that space, that water space, to put those floating. It's a new concept. As people have got big ponds and lakes, they put the photovoltaics out there and float them. Kind of weird, but you know, if you don't have land, that's a good place to put them. So that we're into the end of our agenda, unless there's any other issues that anybody would like to bring up that we didn't touch on.
So just a reminder then, the November meeting will be in person. Okay.
What's the date of that, Sharon? Sorry.
Hold on, that's my camera. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
November 11th.
Thank you, Robert.
6 p.m.
Yes, it's at 6 p.m.
This is a two-person job.
Sharon, before you forget, could you send like a Zoom meeting outlook again for that date, so we all have it on a calendar?
Yeah, I will send one. I'll send an Outlook meeting. I already have one, so I'll just forward. It's already on my calendar, so I'll just forward it to you.
Okay.
And she said we need 3 people there at least.
At least. So if somebody wants to dial in, you know, if somebody doesn't feel like coming, or they don't feel good, you know, whatever, don't feel comfortable, whatever the case is, as long as I have 3 folks there, we can have a quorum. You can participate by phone. You just can't vote. So you can discuss, but.
Just so you guys know, I can definitely be there. I live super close, you know, I'm young. I'll wear my mask.
Yeah, I'll be there too.
Well, that's a question. Are masks required inside
Yes.
the chamber?
Yes. Yeah, all city facilities. The only, we have the chairs separated 6 feet for the audience, so we can only fit like 22 people or something like that. And then the people sitting up at the dais are separated by plexiglass, very high plexiglass. So, and then the speaker podium is encased in plexiglass. So hopefully
Okay.
nothing gets out of there. But again, we do have a phone number. So if somebody says, I just don't feel comfortable going, or, I could call you on the phone and patch you in to the meeting, as long as we have 3 people.
We're not feeling well, you don't want us there.
Do not come if you don't feel well. Do not come. Yes, yes.
It goes without saying.
Yeah.
Also, Sharon, I just want to say thank you for putting those staff updates together line by line like that. I think that was really helpful. So
Yeah.
thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
I know
Oh,
that's a
you're
lot
welcome.
of hard work for you. So thank you.
Well, hopefully we'll put something together for council that's meaningful for them. You know what I mean? So, okay.
So we still on November, you might want to shoot for the Duke thing too, if we have time to get them too.
Yeah, so he's scheduled for that date. He's confirmed.
Okay.
So the only difference is, I think he wanted to do it
Virtual.
online. Yeah, and I'll have to figure out what I can do for that. Whether I could just pull Zoom up on our screen and he could zoom into the meeting. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Or maybe he'll come in person. I think that they're not.
Mark, can you, because you're on Lakes Advisory Board, can you help on the charter as far as how Lakes Advisory can work with like the Sustainability Committee being put in the charter and not step on, I guess, toes? I don't know how those all fit together.
Yeah, it needs to be mentioned. I think lakes somehow needs to be mentioned in the language, so we don't exclude it. It's a component. Lakes and the environment are a component of the bigger umbrella of sustainability. So maybe there's a way we can include it without stepping on toes.
Right. I don't think it's in the resolution. I don't think lakes are really mentioned. And I agree with you. We have 21 or 22 lakes, and we were called the town of Lake Maitland. So we do need to put lakes first here, or put the prioritize.
Well, I would love to get the Lakes Advisory in the charter too, but I don't want to go too far. That's a good. Let's look at the language that Sharon puts together and see if we can tweak it so that we incorporate lakes into it, because that's a significant component of our natural environment there.
Right, and it is in your action plan. So it does mention the lakes in the action plan, even though I know it wasn't in the resolution. It's just something that you added into the action plan.
Yeah.
And there's lakes are coming out in November. They're coming out with their latest they took some samples, their latest samples. So we can see where the lakes stand for their health in November.
And Sharon, is there a new lakes person?
No, there is not. So we still have that out there, advertised, but they've not hired anybody. We do have an assistant public works director though.
Yeah, I heard of that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So he's sort of helping fill in that role while that and the arborist while they hire. It's difficult to hire people right now. You know what I mean? It's phone interviews, and we shall see. I'll find out how many applications they're getting for that position. I mean, that's a position where you really got to have the right person. They really got to love what they're doing.
We've had musical chairs there for many years.
Yeah, it's almost like whenever we get, like Marissa, whenever we get somebody who's really, into it and doing that, somebody offers them a job.
So Sharon, on your agenda, you had an interesting item 8 here, directions to participate in meetings. What did you mean for
Oh, so
that?
that was for the members of the public. It was just telling them how they could register and be an attendee in this. So you were the panelist, they're the attendee. Nobody registered.
Okay.
But Robert actually put it above the agenda too. I just couldn't figure out a way to, I want to get people the directions, but he was able to, he put it above the agenda. So he didn't have to go down to that item. You just, he had a link where you click the link to register, and nobody did.
Well, you got Mark on here. He hasn't said a word. He's been on mute, so he's been multitasking.
He's a panelist. Yeah, but no, I was hoping somebody would, because I haven't used the webinar feature with attendees. So, you know, I mean, if
Like asking questions and stuff.
yeah, raising their hand. Yeah. Mhm. So, because I mean, who knows if there's another wave and then we go backwards again, you know what I mean, into online environment. We really got to figure out a way to take public comment, you know what I mean? Or else
So
we
I
have to
see
keep
you-
pushing off business. We had to keep saying, wait, well, we're not going to do this because we don't want to do it when the public can't actually, you know, meaningfully comment.
So you guys, you got a recording going on. So is this going to be accessible to somebody if they want to see it?
Yes, it's streaming on YouTube.
Okay.
It's live streaming, and then you can go back and watch them.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're a
Mark,
YouTube
after
star,
this.
Mark.
Yeah, so how that works is on the new city website, we have a new agenda public portal module there. And next to the sustainability committee, you're going to see a little camera there. That is what people are clicking to see us live, but that also will be where the recording will remain from here on out. So they can click on that. And the question about the arborist, we've received half a dozen applications so far for the arborist.
Well, that's great. Jeez.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's hope they had appropriate qualifications and not just somebody fired from SeaWorld.
I have a question. Hey, Robert, did we ever settle on a logo?
That had not come back after our COVID cloud, but we can definitely reapproach that.
I don't even remember what we had talked about.
I don't either. Nice if we had a logo for our report, Sharon.
Yeah, I'm glad you remembered that, Lisa. I forgot that. Yeah. But you want to add that to the next agenda then? Talk about the logo. Yeah.
Yeah, I can pick up with the logos and the recommendations that Lisa made on the logo and have that version available with a couple other options as well, if folks would like that.
Great.
It was just seeing Robert talking as a logo that reminded me.
All right, we're all here.
There you go.
So folks, at the end of our agenda, unless anyone has any other business that we need to go over, it looks like we're going to be busy November there, Sharon.
Yes. That's good. The budget's adopted, so I got that in the rear view mirror. So
I don't have anything else.
Well, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn from someone.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, folks. Well, we've had almost an hour and a half here. We're making up for lost time.
We missed each other.
What's going on?
all right.
What a different world we're in. All right, Sharon, thanks for pulling all that stuff together.
Thanks,
Okay.
Sharon. Great job.
All right. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Thanks, everybody. Good to see y'all.